All right. Thank you everyone for joining on time. This is your trainer. Before I proceed with our course content and the details that we're going to look at through the demo and technicalities of all this information, I will introduce myself briefly so that you can have an understanding of my qualification experience and so that you can trust me based on my experience and the knowledge I would have. Okay. So, all right, everyone. So, my name is Somashikar. I'm going to be your trainer for the next for this demo session and for the training that we're going to start going forward. So, my name is Somashikar, and I have a total of 18 years of experience in automation and QA as a whole. So, I'm totally from the QA background, and last 5 years I've been working on Playwright. So out of these 18 years experience, I worked in the initial first 2 years on manual testing. Okay, also called the functional testing. I worked for 2 years on this. I worked with QTP tool. I'm not sure how many of you have an idea. At that point of time, we had this tool called QTP, Quick Test Professional, also called UFT or Lean FT these days. People don't even know that some tool like this exists these days. For 1 year plus, I worked on this tool. Then I started with Selenium. I worked with Selenium for around 9 years, and I used Selenium with almost all the languages, preferred languages across the industry. I used Selenium with Java, with C Sharp, and with Python. Okay, you can use Selenium with multiple other languages, actually, even few more. But I have worked with Selenium with these languages, with Java, C Sharp, Python, extensively with Java for around 5+ years, with C Sharp for around 2.5 years, and with Python for around 1 year. Okay. Then I had an opportunity to work with API testing completely on a project for 1 year. And when I was working with Selenium, I was also automating with API. Okay, this API testing 1 year I am talking about totally API testing only. And with Selenium, when I worked with API, I used REST Assured for API automation. With Java, we have something called REST Sharp. Okay, with C Sharp, we have REST Sharp. We with Python also we have in Python we actually have inbuilt API testing option, so we don't need any separate library. And uh, when I was using Selenium, okay, we also have this something called BDD, behavior driven development, or the Cucumber framework. So with Java, I worked with Cucumber framework. With Selenium, with C Sharp, there is something called SpecFlow. Okay, uh, it's like a combination, or it's like a other name for Cucumber, which they converted into C Sharp for usage with Selenium. Okay, that's called SpecFlow. This SpecFlow does not exist now. They have closed this project and it moved into some other project. Okay, so I've also worked with performance testing or load testing using JMeter. I worked with a tool called Cypress. Okay, after Playwright, this is another buzz automation tool these days called Cypress. Okay, so Cypress also works with JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, what is the differences between Playwright and other languages? We will come to that. But Cypress is also a tool, automation tool, which is similar to Playwright. When if I talk about the industry dominance, the industry giving importance to automation, Selenium is slowly fading. It is slowly becoming invisible. Slowly, some of the projects are moving from Selenium. Still, there are at least 50% I could say is still on Selenium, and slowly people are moving. For the next 5 years, at least 5 years or more than that, we are going to have Playwright. Playwright is going to be our tool for at least the next 5 years. And if you want to survive in the market for automation, if you want to survive, if you want to be in the market with automation, Playwright is the tool that you have to catch up. Still, there are Selenium openings, maybe, but lot of Selenium projects are also moving to Playwright. Why Playwright is that important? I will come to that. So I worked with all these tools. I worked with Cypress. Then for the last 5+ years, I'm working with Playwright. Okay, Playwright, I've used JavaScript and TypeScript, and I also have few of the projects in my organization which are also using C# with Playwright. So I also helped because I have already knowledge of all those languages, Java, C#, JavaScript and TypeScript was somewhat new for me, not that totally new. Once you have a hold of any of the languages, either Java or C#, then the other languages tend to become easy for you. Okay, so I hope at least you have some basic programming. All of you who are attending now, you have some basic programming understanding. I hope that is true. How many of you don't know any programming language? Can you respond to the chat message? Is there anyone who don't know any programming language? Can I get the responses through chat messages? You can just type no idea if you don't know any programming language. Otherwise, you can just type I have. Please respond. Okay. Few people mentioned okay, different programming languages. Only one of the participants says no idea about any programming language. Okay, 4 year back worked with Selenium with Java. It's okay. At least you should have, if you have one programming language, any programming language that would work. Okay. So why I am talking about this is we are going to use JavaScript and TypeScript for our course for working with Playwright because that is the most dominant, because that is the most important, or that is majority of the projects are with JavaScript and TypeScript with Playwright. You will have more support also available in those languages. Okay, you are going to have a lot of support available, existing support available with Playwright in JavaScript and TypeScript. You can also use C# and Python with Playwright, but because the industry uses more of JavaScript and TypeScript, we are going to use JavaScript and TypeScript with Playwright, and that is what we have mentioned in our curriculum also. Okay, so we can either use JavaScript or TypeScript. TypeScript is like a superset of JavaScript. TypeScript contains JavaScript also. Okay, TypeScript contains JavaScript. That means why they're using TypeScript. What is TypeScript? I will talk about that in another 2 minutes. I'm going to talk about that. Okay. So, but whenever you're running TypeScript or whenever you're using TypeScript, that will also eventually get converted into JavaScript only. TypeScript contains the additional features that JavaScript don't have. But when it is running internally, TypeScript will get converted to JavaScript again. Okay. So, and why I was talking about having knowledge of any of the programming languages is if you have knowledge of Java or C Sharp, JavaScript is almost similar to Java and C Sharp is almost similar to Java, right? So if you have any idea about C Sharp or Java, it becomes absolutely easy. If you have knowledge of Python also, it is good because Python is also a scripting language and JavaScript and TypeScript are also scripting languages. You don't need lot of data typing to be used. Okay, actually in TypeScript we use data types. However, in Python we don't need typing, or you don't need to write int I is equal to kind of thing. JavaScript also does not require that. In TypeScript we do that to some extent. We will talk about it going forward. Okay. So JavaScript and TypeScript are the domination languages in the market for Playwright. All right. So this is about me in brief, and let us come to the Playwright curriculum and what we're going to learn in Playwright. And what are we going to add through AI for that? Okay. In Playwright with AI, what are we going to learn? What are we going to learn the additional features of, or with Playwright, what are we going to learn using AI? Okay. So let me take you to that part. So first I will introduce you what Playwright actually is and what is the difference, why you should learn Playwright, how superior it is. What is the better things you have in Playwright compared with Selenium or any other program automation tools these days? Mainly, I will compare with Selenium. Okay. This is our tool, Playwright. Okay, let me. Okay, we're going to talk about Playwright. So how good this is, or how this is better compared with other programming or other automation tools. Can anyone who have understanding of any other automation tool, can you tell me what is the problem with Selenium? Mainly, what is the difficult part in Selenium, or what is the issue with Selenium? Major issue with Selenium. Anyone? Can you tell me what is the main issue with Selenium? Selenium is good. There is no doubt. You can do end-to-end automation. I don't have any doubt because I'm actually a very, very big fan of Selenium because I worked with Selenium for 9+ years. Okay. One person mentioned dynamic locators is a problem with Selenium. Excellent. That is one of the excellent answers. Selenium have issue with locating or with identifying locators when they are dynamic. But I feel I worked as a QA architect. I worked as a QA lead. Currently, also I'm working. I am a associate consultant. That's my designation, which is like equivalent to a project manager. associate consultant is my designation, but my role is a test automation architect. Okay, my role is a test automation architect. I worked as a lead for around 7+ years. I worked as a team member for 10, around, yeah, 10+ years, and as a team lead for around 7+ years. I'm in, for the last 3-4 years, or more than that, 5+ years, I would say, with designation, and with designation, I am a test automation architect. So I've designed various frameworks. I've designed multiple Selenium frameworks, you know, Playwright frameworks. The Cypress framework also I have designed. So looking at all these things, what I say is the issue with Playwright, with Selenium, majorly is you only have to write all the wait statements. How many of you have an idea? You know that you only have to write your wait statements in Selenium. Agree? How many of you agree? Synchronization is a very big issue. Okay, in Selenium, synchronization is a very big issue. That means when the application loads, synchronization means application loads. Okay. You have your automation code which will run. Application sometimes loads fast, sometimes loads slower. Correct? But what your code has some restriction. It will run faster. So you want to match. There are two people. Okay. One person is running fast, one person is running slow. The person who is running slow has to give something to the person who is running fast. You if you have seen this relay running, one person has to run, that person has to give the baton, that is called baton, that stick to other person, then only other person can run and they can complete, right? So it is almost like your you asked your friend to come and meet at one place, that person, and before that person is coming itself, you are going away because your friend is late. Okay, you asked your friend to meet, like how we started at 8 a.m. You asked your friend to come at 8 a.m. Exactly at 8 a.m. That person did not reach by 8 because of traffic, or he was late latif. So because he did not come at 8, you just left. By the time he is coming, you are not there. So synchronization issue is like that. Application, the code is running fast and it is searching for the application, the elements where it can click, where it can type. But the application is not yet loaded. It is slow. Okay. So then the code will come and search. Okay, where is my button? Where is my text box? Where I have to enter? Where I have to click? All that stuff. For that, it is not able to find. So it will fail. So in Selenium, synchronization is a very big issue. That is called synchronization. Because of that, you only have to write your own wait statements. Explicit wait, implicit wait. Agree? Explicit wait, implicit, these a lot of these implicit waits you only have to write. Playwright does not require this writing implicit, explicit waits. Not required. It internally takes care of all those issues. So 50% of our burden is gone. Whatever you have in Selenium, 50% of the burden. Okay. If 50% feels like too much, at least 30% of the time that you spend for writing a Selenium script is gone. Straight away, 30% is decreased. Okay, you can minus 30% of your effort from Selenium of writing the explicit wait. Okay, WebDriver wait, dot expected then expected conditions, all that stuff, blah, blah blah blah, those things not required. Why? In Playwright, we have the feature of Playwright which is called automated wait. Playwright will check whether that application is available. We have a specific time frame within which it will wait. Okay, we can change the time frame also. How much time we have to make it wait. Internally, you can do the configuration and make it wait. But it has internally that option where it will check whether the application is loaded. In the application, the element that you are trying to check whether it is already is that element is also loaded. Can you click on that element that is clickable or it is enabled? In Selenium, we do all that stuff. We will write the code. Is it available on the page? Is it enabled? Then we will write the step for clicking on that. We don't require all that stuff in Playwright. Playwright itself will take care of whether that page is loaded, element is loaded, it is clickable or not, enabled, clickable. Then it will give the information that we can go ahead. Then the next step execution happens. So the most important part where Selenium is beaten by Playwright is synchronization. We have many other things like how in Selenium you have multiple languages usage. We already discussed that. Playwright also can use multiple languages. What are the languages you can use? I already mentioned. You can with Playwright we can use JS, TS, JavaScript, TypeScript. We can use C#. We can use C#. We can use Python also. We can use Java also actually. Okay, these are the multiple languages you can use with Playwright. Playwright, if you compare Selenium with browsers, okay, what are all the browsers you can use with Selenium? We can use Chrome, Firefox, Safari. Okay, I've not been using that. Opera browser you can use, I believe. So Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. These are the main ones that we make use of, right? Playwright also can use all these browsers. We can use, but it is named differently. Okay, what it says, Chromium, Firefox, and it calls WebKit. One thing called WebKit. So what is this Chromium? Chromium means Chromium is a web engine. If you see earlier, Internet Explorer is different compared with Chrome. You guys, how many of you know? Internet Explorer used to look different compared to Chrome. But now if you see Microsoft Edge, almost looks like Chrome only. Why? Microsoft Edge also looks like Chrome, correct? Why? If you see this menu for this is Chrome, okay? I will open Edge also. Okay, this is Edge. Okay, see the same menu, right? Why? Because both Chrome and Edge now uses the engine called Chromium. So Playwright directly targets the Chromium engine. In the Chromium engine, we have browsers, Chrome and Edge. You can use any of these browsers with Playwright. You can use Chrome or Edge in Chromium. With Playwright, we can use Firefox. There is something called WebKit, which is the Safari browser. The browser in iPhone and Apple devices. That Safari browser. You can also use Safari browser on in Linux or with Windows, but most people don't use it. In iPhones, you usually have Safari browser. That's their basic browser or the default browser they will provide with iPhone and Mac operating system. That is the web Safari browser. So it supports that browser also. We have Chrome, Firefox, Edge, all support. It calls it Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. So we already have what is available in Selenium. Okay, there are some things which we don't have, but we can overcome that. I will talk about it. Okay. Playwright is much faster. Playwright is much faster when you compare with Selenium. That is one master stroke when you compare. Selenium is slower, actually, I would say. At least now with Selenium 4.0, Selenium is a bit faster. But before that, it was even slower. Mainly, Selenium uses something called W3C now. W3C standards. And it uses an engine. Earlier, there is something called JSON wire protocol. Now also it is similar. Okay. The earlier thing is called JSON wire protocol. Okay. So what happens in Selenium? Whatever is the protocol, Selenium has to send a request. What happens when you are running your automation script in Selenium? Selenium has to send a request. Everyone understands request response, API testing, right? Manual API testing when you send a request. Okay, what happens when you're opening Gmail? What happens when you're doing anything on internet? You're opening Bing.com, Google.com, anything. What happens? First, one request is sent to the server from your machine over the internet. One request is sent to that server, whichever site you're opening. That server gets the request. Okay, it says okay, open in that system. That is a response you receive. Okay, so there is a request and response. Request is sent and response is received. In API testing also, that is what happens. A request is sent and a response is received. When you're running your Selenium script also, first, when you're running one line, it will send the request. Then the response is received. That's how the execution happens. For every line, a request is sent, response is received. Then that connection is broken. Okay. In Selenium, the architecture is like that. You set whenever you run each line, the request is sent, response is received, the step is executed. For Playwright, that is not required. Why? There is something called WebSocket. Playwright uses WebSocket. So what happens in WebSocket? For every step, it does not require to send request, get response, connection is broken, not required like that. Once connection, first step, execution started, connection is established. Last step, when the execution is done, the connection is broken. In between, there is a request response, but no connection is broken in between. It's a continuous connection. So Playwright script is very fast when it executes compared with Selenium. Very fast. Within milliseconds, it gets executed sometimes. because we will not be able to see when we are executing, so we can slow down that Playwright execution from milliseconds to some seconds. We can deliberately, by ourselves, we are pushing that to slow down for when we are writing our script. We have to understand, right? We have to see and understand what is happening in the application when we are running. So when we are creating the script, Playwright script, we will make it slow down by ourselves. Otherwise, Playwright is very fast. Okay. And in Selenium, by default, Selenium executes by opening the browser. You have to compulsorily make sure if you want to run it in headless mode. That is, if you don't want the browser to open and run. Why do you want to not open the browser and run? Say I have 300 test cases. I want to run the test cases. When you are executing the scripts, automation scripts, 300 test cases, when each one executes, if the browser has to open, it has to wait for something and then it has to run. Each test case, for example, it takes 3 minutes. 300 test cases into 3 minutes, 900 minutes. 900 minutes is how many hours? More than 8 hours, right? So, but if you do the same Selenium execution, 300 test cases without opening the browser, if you want the tests to run, instead of 900 minutes, it can take some 300 minutes or 400 minutes. More than half the time will be reducing. That is called headless mode. Automation scripts will be running, but the browser will not open. You can make that. That is called headless execution. So by default, Selenium will have headed mode, which means the browser will open and run. In Playwright, by default, the mode is headless mode. Default is headless mode. Here default is headed mode. That means browser opens. No browser opening. One more very interesting thing about Playwright is it does not go through it does not require to go through entire details of the element where that is, because internally what actually happens is Playwright will go through the HTML DOM structure, whatever is there inside the page. Actually, the code of the page, it goes through that. It is almost like, say for example, when there are some injections given, uh, you can feel that there is some kind of pain going through your nerves. Okay, some kind of injections, or if you have seen somebody, or if you have heard of people, they will say, okay, there is a sharp pain going through my nerves when some injection is given. So Playwright will go through the actual browser code internally when it is running. So Playwright is very fast compared to Selenium. Okay, so these are the very, very big advantages that Playwright has. I'm talking about only the pain points and how we are dealing in architecture and also comparison with Selenium. Okay, we will actually talk about the more features and how Playwright is going to be doing great things in terms of automation during our course. I will take you through the course content. What are we going to discuss during our course? Okay, so just give me a minute. I should have it somewhere here. Okay, these are curriculum. I'm not sure how many of you have gone through this. Okay, Playwright with AI. So we have a total of 72K plus students across different programs, different courses that we have trained. So this is the course content, Playwright with JavaScript, TypeScript. I mentioned here, but towards the end, I have the AI concepts. So what are we going to actually go through during our course? We will go through, in the first module, we will go through the introduction to Playwright, the fundamentals of Playwright. Some of these I have already spoken just now. Playwright versus Selenium versus Cypress. What is Playwright? What are the challenges we have? 50% of all these topics I have already spoken. In the second module, we will go through the JavaScript essentials. If for somebody who don't have any idea of any programming language, please at least go through the basic understanding. I'm sure at least you will have some understanding of what is a loop, what is a variable, what is a data type. At least that part, I'm sure some of you will have. The person who mentioned does not have any idea about programming language can relate. You have, at least when you are going through your graduation, you would have learned, right? So those things will come in handy. Those things will be useful at this point of time, because first we will learn, or we will go through basic language structures, because we are going to use JavaScript and TypeScript. I will take you through JavaScript and TypeScript fundamentals. We don't need to go very in detail. Fundamentals are required. So I'll take you through the fundamentals: variables, data types, operators, expressions, conditional statements, loops, arrays, objects, everything. And one very important thing when you're learning JavaScript, TypeScript is callbacks, promises, and arrow functions and functions. There is something called async await statement, which will make use of all these things. Why Playwright is faster is because of these things. Something called arrow functions, callbacks, promises, and this async await statement. Okay. Whichever language you are going to make use of, even if it is Java, C#, you are going to have these statements, async await statements, in those languages also when you're writing Playwright script. So better to learn from the understanding point of view. Okay. So we will go through JavaScript, we will go through then TypeScript. I said TypeScript is like a bigger picture. Correct? TypeScript is eventually will convert to JavaScript, but TypeScript have some things more. What are the more things you have? JavaScript is a scripting language. It does not have it has classes, objects, but it does not have data types. I don't mean it does not have totally. It have data types, but if I have data type, and if I'm what JavaScript does is, when you are assigning a is equal to 10, it will take. If you assign a is equal to 𝐘𝐮𝐬𝐭, then also it will take. If you are by mistake writing in some place like that, then there is going to be a problem, because you don't know that you use that variable with some other value already. Maybe you're going to use the same variable name, and whatever latest variable value you've given, it will take. You don't want that clash to happen. So that is the reason we use TypeScript. Moreover, if you're using TypeScript, this is type inference. This is called type inference. Okay. If you're assigning once some variable with some value, after that, if you're using the same variable with other value, as I mentioned, a is equal to 10, and then a is equal to 𝐘𝐮𝐬𝐭, TypeScript will throw error. JavaScript will not throw error. Okay. So that is why we want TypeScript to be used. We don't compulsorily need TypeScript usage, but in projects, people use TypeScript more. So I want to go with TypeScript. But for TypeScript is basically same as JavaScript. It has some things extra. So first we will go through basic JavaScript, then we will go through TypeScript. Okay. So what extra things you have in TypeScript? TypeScript has interfaces, enumerators, classes, constructors, access modifiers also, which JavaScript does not have. Okay. So TypeScript has these extra features. You have interfaces like how you have in Selenium for Java, C#. You have interfaces, classes, objects, constructors. In TypeScript also we have these things. JavaScript does not have interfaces. It only have classes and methods. You can do inheritance also. Interfaces JavaScript does not have. What is the advantage if you have interfaces? It makes things easier when you're building frameworks. We will go through that part, okay, in detail afterwards. For now, I don't want you guys to get confused or feel complex. These are the ones which are the best ones for us. We can I build frameworks with only JavaScript and Playwright. We can do that. But maintaining the framework will become difficult. Everybody who uses the framework, who creates the framework methods and scripts with that framework, have to be very careful about using variables, creating methods. They have to be very careful. If you're using TypeScript framework, you don't need, with Playwright, if you're using TypeScript framework, you don't need that. Internally, there is a mechanism which will protect you from that. Okay, so that is the reason we're going to use TypeScript. Now, in the subsequent modules, we will go through how we are going to set up the Playwright, what is the project structure it will have. And I mentioned internally in Playwright, for when you're running the script, right? It will wait for whether the page is loaded or not, whether the element is loaded or not. It is clickable, all that stuff I mentioned, right? But there is a default time. If you want, you can change the time. Where you can change that time, you have something called playwright.config. There is a file called playwright.config. When we create a Playwright project, automatically we will get these files. Okay. How to install, what are the prerequisites, what are the things we require before we are installing Playwright, how we are going to create application script with Playwright. There is something called code generation tool, like how you have a record and playback option in Selenium or any other tools. Okay, I work with one tool called Catalan Studio, which has a free and pro versions both. So Catalan Studio, Cypress also provides option for record and playback. Playwright also has an option. What is record and playback? You can record the steps which you want to run. You don't need to write the script from scratch. You can record how you record your voice and your video. Similarly, what steps you want to perform, you can record that steps. Playwright will automatically give the steps code for that. That is called code generation tool or code gen in Playwright. And for inspecting the elements, we have manually we can inspect the elements. However, along with code gen, we have Playwright inspector option. You don't need to create or you don't need to inspect the elements by yourself. There is something called Playwright inspector which will provide you that option. It will inspect that element and you can make use of that in your script. Okay, so we will go through all that stuff. Then, like in any other language, in any other tool, we have locators, because that is what is important. You have to know how to locate the element before you are going to click on that or do some action. What is all about automation? Playwright is for web automation, like Selenium. Okay, you're not going to do any desktop application automation. You cannot automate SAP. You cannot automate desktop applications. You're going to purely do web automation. But the places where Selenium falls short, for example, you have to upload some file. You have to download some file. With Selenium, you have to separately use some library for uploading a file, for downloading a file, correct? In Playwright, you don't need that problem. You don't have that problem. It will provide you option to take from the desktop. You don't need to use any third-party library. You don't need to use AutoIT or SQLi, anything. You don't need any of the third-party libraries. Playwright is very powerful in that case. Okay, we are going to do web automation, and whenever you want to do any automation with any website, any application, what you want to do, you want to all the things that you will do is you fill the form. That means you enter some text, click on some buttons, click on some links, radio buttons, check boxes, dialog boxes, windows, all these things you're going to handle, right? For all that, first thing or basic is you have to have a locator. You have to know where you have to go and type, where you have to go and click. You means application, the code has to know. Code does not know automatically, right? You only will be providing when you're writing the script. So you will be inspecting all that, giving that details to the code through these methods called locators. Okay. So this is what we will go through locators. We will go through all the scenarios. How are we going to handle text boxes, check boxes, drop downs, tables, calendars? How are you going to do file uploading, downloading? All these scenarios with scripts we will write. We will also go through how we are going to handle mouse hovering. Hovering, this is, you put the cursor here. It is showing that fit one full page to window. That hovering on the web page, how are you going to do? How are you going to scroll the element, scroll to an element? Keyboard actions, entering, pressing the key, typing using keyboard, not through the method, through the keyboard. How are you going to do? Scrolling, how are you going to handle frames? In one page, web page, you have 2-3 parts, physical parts. Left side, something is there. When you click on left side, right side will change. That is called a frame. How are you going to handle frames? How are you going to handle when there is a new window, new tab? You want to go into that new tab and do something. How are you going to handle dialog boxes? There is a Java. Okay, do you want to go ahead and don't want to go ahead? How are you going to handle such things? So all the scenarios we will make sure we will go through, and I will show you practically all this stuff. Okay, and assertions. How are you going to write assertions? How are you going to make auto waiting? What is auto waiting? How internally it is handled? If you want to write your own explicit wait, how you can do it if you want. We don't require actually that. Okay. There is something called hard assertion, soft assertion, like assert and verify you have in Selenium. That means you want to stop execution when the test is failing at any step. Or do you want to go ahead with other steps and fail the test case finally? So hard assertion will stop at that point, soft assertion will go ahead. So we'll go through all that stuff. Okay, duration of the course. I planned this course for 45 to 50 hours approximately. I would say 45 hours. Uh, every day, 1 hour 15 minutes approximately. 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes. Okay, maximum is 1 hour 15 minutes. If I feel that some topic does not require continuation, I will do it for 1 hour 15 minutes. Otherwise, you can consider it as 1 hour. Okay, so it comes around 45 hours, roughly around 30 days of course time. Okay, so 6 weeks you can consider for the course, right? So we will go through all these concepts. We have a parallel execution concept, which is very powerful in Playwright. How you're going to group the test cases, data-driven testing, like how you're going to read a JSON file or CSV file and use that data. Parameterizing. We will also touch API testing with Playwright. Visual testing, how you can capture screenshots, videos. How are you going to generate reports? Some reports called Allure report, which is a very interesting and important thing in the market. Allure reports we're going to use with Playwright. Then page object model, designing a framework, And I will also show you how you can make, this is how people are using in the real time. Adding your code to GitHub repository using Git. How in organizations, people actually save their code to a repository where everybody stores the code. Then how are you going to run your test cases in Jenkins? You don't need to run in your own system. You can run remotely through Jenkins. You can configure the Jenkins also. Every day I want this scripts to run at 12 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or if after every 1 hour I want to run the scripts. So we can use Jenkins for that. In organizations, this is how they do in real time, and we're going to go through how we are going to do Jenkins setup, how we are going to create a pipeline, how are you going to execute that scripts remotely. All these concepts we are going to go through. Very, very important and absolutely real time. And we are going to have how we are going to use AI with Playwright. What is, I will just give you introduction to AI during this term, how you can generate your Playwright scripts with AI, how you can do agentic changes. When you are using Playwright, there is something called GitHub Copilot, which we are going to integrate. You can create your own scripts with Playwright by just giving the command. You can make modifications in your code or in your scripts that you have created with Playwright through the agent, GitHub Copilot agent. We will configure that and we will do that during our session. Okay. And finally, after all that, we are going to do one real-time project, one project with one application. I will take one e-commerce website and I will do the automation. We will build the framework. Everything we will do this during the session. How we are going to handle every scenario in that application using Playwright. So absolutely, if you go to any other institutes, or if you go to for any other classes, I'm not boasting about, I'm not praising, I'm not telling big things about our classes. If you go to any other course with any other institute, maybe you won't have, you will be charged separately for one project. Okay, project is separate, course is separate. For project separately, this much amount. But we in our course, we are going to do separate this. We are going to spend one full week or at least 5-6 hours only on the project. We're going to spend. Okay, we will take one application, we will build the framework, and we are going to handle the scenarios in that application using all this. Okay. So all the concepts which already we covered during the session, we will cover during that application automation. We will take one application and we will do that stuff during our session only. Okay. After all this, once you're done with the course, we will give you a certification. We will also help you with FAQs, answers. We will, get your resumes updated if you don't already have, or if you, don't have any resume, we will get the resume prepared for you. For placement also, we will give you assistance. I will not give guarantee. We will give assistance. How you can approach interviews, how you can do mock interview. You can book mock interviews also with us and get mock interviewed. And with that experience, you can go to the actual interview. Mock interviews will be almost similar to your main interviews. Okay, so this is about our Playwright with AI course. Apart from this, introduction to AI and Playwright MCP, AI test generation, there are also new features with Playwright and AI. I will also try to take you through that if time permits. All right. So this is all about the details. If you have any questions, I'm ready to